All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about behavioral economics. Basically, we're going to get into why we make the choices we do and, why a lot of the time those choices seem to make absolutely no logical sense. It turns out we can be pretty predictably irrational.
So let's kick things off with a real-world puzzle. Picture this. A bunch of daycare centers were having a real problem with parents showing up late to pick up their kids. It was happening all the time. So they tried what sounds like a pretty straightforward economic solution, right? They started charging a fine for being late. What do you think happened?
You're not going to believe this. The number of late parents didn't go down. It actually more than doubled. The moment that fine was introduced, lateness just skyrocketed. And this result completely baffled traditional economists. It sets up our big question for today perfectly. Why on earth did that happen?
To really understand this fine mess, we need to take a step back and look at the old-school economic view of how people behave, because that's where the story really begins.
See, for a very long time, all these economic models were built around this totally imaginary character, the perfectly logical, 100% rational human being. Let me introduce you to Homo economicus. This is a person who's always rational, never emotional, and is completely, flawlessly self-interested. In their world, a fine is just a cost, so you'd think people would try to avoid it. But the big problem, as that daycare study shows us, is that real people, we just don't work that way.
And this slide, it just lays it all out. This is the gap that behavioral economics was born to explore. On the left, you've got this idealized economic robot. And on the right, well, that's us. Actual humans with all our messy, emotional, and kind of wonderful irrational tendencies. The daycare fine didn't work because it accidentally replaced a social norm, the feeling of, I feel guilty for being late, with a market norm, which is basically, oh, I can just pay to be late.
It turns out we're not just motivated by getting the most for ourselves. We are deeply, powerfully driven by our sense of fairness. To see what I mean, let's play a little game.
Okay, here's how it works. Someone you've never met is given $10. Their job is to offer you a piece of that money. It could be anything from a single penny all the way up to the full $10.
Now here's the catch. If you accept their offer, the deal is done, you both get paid. But if you reject it because you think it's an unfair offer, you both get absolutely nothing. Zero.
So just think about it for a second. What's your personal cutoff point? Would you take a penny? I mean, it's free money, right? What about $1? Or would you need, say, at least $3 or $4 to feel like you were treated fairly?
A completely rational person, our old friend Homo economicus, would accept any offer over zero. Even 1 single cent is better than nothing. That's the cold, hard, logical play. But of course, that is not what happens when real people play this game. In study after study, the most common offers are somewhere between $3 and $5. And get this, offers under $2 are rejected about half the time.
This tells us something so important. We are so driven by fairness that we will literally pay money just to punish someone else for being unfair. Our internal sense of justice can completely override our own financial self-interest. It's not just about what we get, it's about what we get compared to the other person.
And as a super interesting little side note, a similar study found that chimpanzees, they act like perfect economists. They don't seem to care about fairness one bit. They make lopsided offers, and the other chimps almost always take them. They just want the treat, no matter how small. Okay, so beyond fairness, our brains also have these built-in glitches, these cognitive biases, that lead us to make the same kinds of mistakes over and over. Let's try one out right now.
Okay, read this carefully. You've got a big hospital and a small hospital. We all know that on average, it's about a 50-50 split between boys and girls. So the question is, which hospital is more likely to have those statistically weird days, where more than 60% of the babies born are boys? Take a guess.
So if you said about the same, you're in good company. More than half of people choose that answer, but it's wrong. The correct answer is actually the smaller hospital.
This happens because of a really powerful bias called the law of small numbers. Our brains just kind of assume that small groups should act the same way as big groups, but they don't. Small sample sizes are way more likely to have wild swings and extreme results. Think of it like this. If you flip a coin 4 times, getting 3 heads isn't that crazy. But if you flip it 400 times, getting 300 heads would be almost impossible. The small hospital is just more likely to have those weird days.
So these quirks aren't just fun little brain teasers. They have huge implications.
Understanding them is absolutely critical if we want to design better systems, better companies, and smarter public policies in the real world.
This is the path forward. It's not about trying to fix how humans think. It's about acknowledging our irrationality and then building smarter environments, what some people call choice architectures, that help guide our biased brains toward better decisions. And you can see these ideas everywhere. That powerful drive for fairness from the money game, that helps explain why paying people a fair, higher wage can actually lead to them working harder. That law of small numbers? Knowing about biases like that helps us design things like opt-out retirement plans that nudge people into saving more. It even helps us rethink massive problems like climate change, seeing it not just as a problem of selfish people, but as a giant coordination challenge.
And this really is the ultimate takeaway. The old way of thinking was, just give people more information and more choices and they'll make the right call. But behavioral economics has shown us that's just not enough. We have to be thoughtful architects of the choices we give people, always accounting for those built-in glitches in our brains.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know your brain has these hidden shortcuts and this powerful desire for fairness, what's one decision you make, big or small, that you might look at a little differently now? From how you manage your money to how you split a dinner bill, how are these hidden forces shaping your world?